Evaluation. Now coming to the last speaker for the first part, she is doing her AC project, Interpretive Readings. Now I will introduce the nature of the interpretive reading. It is pretty different from the other types of speeches because it is a speech that the speaker needs to communicate the ideas and emotions of the author rather than her own. And through reading from a work of literature, the speaker needs to use her voice and the body to convey the idea and emotion and the attitudes and intention of the author. So, as that, she can allow the listener to recreate the characters and situations in their own mind. Very special. And the objective of her AC number 1 is to understand the elements of interpretive reading, to learn how to analyze a narrative and plan for effective interpretation. Also, to learn and apply vocal techniques that will aid in the effectiveness of the reading. Before the speaker starts her speech, she will give a 45-second introduction of her material, and she will have 8 to 10 minutes of her speech. The title is very famous. I think every of you may read that book before. The Little Prince Visits the King by Speak-A-Thon from ALE.
On his own planet. And in this chapter, the little prince has just left obedience. He was an absolute monarch. But because he was a very good man, he made his orders reasonable. He would say, by way of example, if I order a general to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not obey me, that would not be the fault of the general. It would be my fault.
May I sit down? Came now a timid inquiry from the little prince.
I order you to do so,
The king answered him, and majestically gathered in a flow of his fur robe. But the little prince was wondering. The planet was tiny. Over what could this king really rule? Sire, I beg that you will excuse my asking you a question.
I order you to ask me a question.
The king rushed to assure him. Sire, over what do you rule?
Over everything,
Said the king with magnificent simplicity. Over everything? The king made a gesture, which took in his planet, the other planets, and all the stars. Over all that?
over all that.
For his rule was not only absolute, it was also universal. And the stars obey you?
Certainly they do. They obey instantly. I do not permit insubordination.
Such power was a thing for the little prince to wonder at. If he had been master of such complete authority, he would have been able to watch the sunset, not 44 times a day, but 72, or even 100, or even 200 times, without ever having to move his chairs. And because he felt a bit sad as he remembered his little planet, which he had forsaken, he plucked up his courage to ask the king a favor. I should like to see a sunset. Do me that kindness. Order the sun to set.
If I order a general to fly from one flower to another like a butterfly, or to write a tragic drama, or to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not carry out the order that he had received, which one of us would be in the wrong?
The king demanded.
The general or myself?
You, said the little prince firmly.
Exactly. One must require from each one the duty which each one can perform. Accepted authority rests first of all on reason. If you ordered your people to go and throw themselves into the sea, they would rise up a revolution. I have the right to require obedience because my orders are reasonable.
That my sunset, the little prince reminded him, for he never forgot a question once he had asked it.
You shall have your sunset. I shall command it. But according to my science of government, I shall wait until conditions are favorable.
What would that be?
Replied
the king, and before saying anything else, he consulted a bulky calendar.
That will be that will be this evening, about 20 minutes to 8, and you will see how well I am obeyed.
The little prince yawned. He was regretting his lost sunset. And then, too, he was already beginning to be a little bit bored. I have nothing more to do here, he said to the king. So I shall set out on my way again.
Do not go,
Said the king, who was very proud of having a subject.
Do not go. I will make you a minister.
Minister of what?
Minister of others. If you succeed in judging yourself rightly, then you are indeed a man of true wisdom.
Yes, but I can judge myself anywhere. I do not need to live on this planet.
I have good reason to believe that somewhere on my planet there is an orat. I hear him at night. You can judge this orat. From time to time you will condemn him to death. Thus his life will depend on your justice. But you will pardon him on each occasion. For he must be treated economically. For he is the only one we have.
I do not like to condemn anyone to death. And now I think I will go on my way.
No!
But the little prince, having now completed his preparation for departure, had no wish to grieve the old monarch. If your majesty wishes to be promptly obeyed, he said, he should be able to give me a reasonable order. He should be able, for example, to order me to be gone by the end of this minute. It seems to me that conditions are favorable. As the king made no answer, the little prince hesitated a moment. Then, with a sigh, he took his leave.
I've made you my ambassador.
The king called out in a hurry. He had a magnificent air of authority. The grown-ups are very strange, the little prince said to himself as he continued on his journey.